Welcome to Jets Talk. My name's Ryan and I'll be your pilot tonight. I am joined alongside our panel. I've got Green Bean, Joe Blewett, and Chris, the Entertainah, talking sports. Guys, all their channels are going to be in the description down below, so make sure you give these guys a sub if you have not subbed up already. Guys, how we doing tonight? Green Bean, I'll kick it to you first.
Oh man, I'm in the best mood ever, man. I'm just looking forward to this. I'm excited about the little bit of a change up we have here. I don't know what's going to happen, and I couldn't be happier.
Joe, how you doing tonight?
Good, man. Pumping out the film as usual, and excited to get into some talking points for the next hour or so.
I love it. I love it. Chris, how you doing tonight?
Yeah, I'm excited to come back on. Was on here a couple weeks ago, had a lot of fun, and always love mixing it up with our little brother, the New York Jets. No, I'm not trying to pick on you guys. I try to stay away from picking on the Jets, but no, I'm looking forward to it, man. It should be a lot of fun talking some New York sports tonight.
Oh man, we're gonna be hitting below the belt. I see. I got you. It's okay. We got the better of them in that Leonard Williams.
No.
Deal,
To be honest with you,
okay.
we've been the little brother. Well, we've both been little brothers the last couple of years. Neither team could really talk.
I heard, Chris was talking a little smack. Grandpa Mark was talking to me the other day. He goes, you better hold Chris to everything he was saying on his channel because he better not be throwing softballs over here. So we'll get into it in a little bit. We got a little bit to talk about. We got, some injury updates or injury news with Mims and Vincent Smith being out. We signed Chris Hogan. We'll also get into some of the Giants news and see what's going on around the leagues, get some of our opinions. And then around, say, probably 9 o'clock, we'll jump to the phones. We got Joe with us for the first hour. Chris will be here for all two. So make sure you get your questions heard at some point. All right, guys. So the Jets are notorious. We were talking about this a little bit before the stream started. And a lot of rankings around the league are ranking the Jets' weapons as towards the bottom of the pack. And, wide receiver-wise, it's hard to argue, especially with the injuries we have. But I want to get some of your opinions on what you think the Jets' weapons sort of look like. I'll go to Chris first just because he's an outsider, so it's kind of like an outsider's perspective in terms of what they think our weapons look like. So, Chris, let me know what you think.
I mean, yeah, I think you have the same problem we do. If I'm being honest, I think we have, if we're healthy, better weapons. Saquon Barkley's, in my opinion, if not the best, the second best running back in the league. Evan Ingram is a very good pass-catching tight end when he's healthy. But I think both teams kind of lack that number one option. I like what the Jets did. They went out and they brought in Brashad Perryman. He's a guy that I talked about on my channel several times. I think he was a former first-round pick, a guy with a lot of ability. Finished the year very strong with the Tampa Bay Bucks last year. So I think he could come in here. I think he's a sleeper in fantasy. I think he could have a solid year for the Jets if he gets the opportunity. We were talking before the show, Crowder. He's a solid slot guy, and you'll see what you got with Mims. Mims was a guy that a lot of people had going in the late first round, and I think he fell due in large part to because it was such a deep draft class at the wide receiver position. So I think the Jets got some talent there, but yeah, it's definitely, let's put it this way, it's not your strength. I think if I'm a Jets fan, what I'm looking forward to most this year is the improved offensive line. You guys definitely did that. You brought in Becton. You spent some money on the right side. You also brought in that center from Denver. I can't remember his name off the top of my head that I really liked. And you hope that Le'Veon Bell could get back on track because I think he's your best weapon if you get that offensive line to where it needs to be. And he's kind of a guy that needs a sound offensive line. So if the Jets take that step forward there, that may help Darnold and the rest of the other weapons. But, yeah, you guys lack a number one option, much like the Giants do.
Joe, how are you feeling about our weapons this year?
Slightly improved. They're not top notch, but like I was saying, you have the ESPN rankings who come out and say they're 32, which I think is complete garbage. I think that's an easy thing to do, to type in stats and accumulated stats and see where the Jets rank. But assuming Herndon comes back and he's healthy, which is a question mark at this point. He had some injuries at Miami. He's had injuries already in his early career. So is he healthy? Hopefully, if he is, then he's a guy who produced a lot as a rookie. And if he could just be an average tight end, which I definitely think he could be, that's much better than what they had last year. Even though Griffin was relatively solid for what he was asked to do coming in late and things like that. So Herndon's a big add. Perryman versus Anderson, they're obviously different. Anderson's definitely the better deep threat, but in terms of like playing that Z, playing X, doing some different things in terms of his body, having some more releases, having contested catch ability, Perryman is a better weapon all around than a guy like Anderson is. So you could do some more things with him. So I'm fine with that addition. And like I said, with his film, he was producing film wise the first couple of weeks of the season to the midpoint of the season, but he was the third or fourth option. So he wasn't always targeted. There was plenty of times I have a play I could pull up, which I'm not going to pull up that. I know it's a panel. I'm not going to get to the film, but he burned Darius Slay for what could have been a 95-yard touchdown. He wasn't targeted. So is that a bad play because he wasn't targeted, or was he just not the first read on that play? So he proved to me a lot more last year than the people who type in the stats on Google think. So I'm okay with that addition. Crowder's a top 10 slot guy. I don't know if he's 6, 7, 8, whatever he is, but he's a top slot guy. And then Mims, like you said, Chris, he fell. I don't know why he fell as far as he did. You know, guys like T. Higgins, guys like Michael Pittman, I don't get why they were chosen over him. They were. The Jets were blessed to get him. But it's a year where he didn't have training camp, and, you know, a full training camp, a real training camp, mini camp, etc. So he's going to start slow. But I like the way the weapons are going. They're obviously not, you know, top notch, but they're not 32 either.
Green Bean, how you feeling about our weapons?
Oh, so much. You guys just laid all kinds of meat on the table I want to chew into. This is good already. I like this. But so a couple of things. One is just like Joe was saying about Perryman. There's another interesting aspect when you look at 2019 for him. He had 66 targets, 33 receptions, I think it was. Forgive me if I'm off a number or two. But he had 3 drops. So in addition to not being targeted, when he was, Jameis Winston was unable to connect with him quite a bit. And that was with him being the third and fourth option at times. He had a much better year than people give him credit for. And that last 5 weeks or 6 weeks of the season, he lit up the NFL, right? So this is a guy that I personally think is going to come in and do a lot more than a lot of people are thinking. It's almost like, he's a bust first round pick. He had a couple good weeks. That's fine. Let him think that. The Mims stuff is unfortunate right now with the hammy, with such a short training camp. It's going to be problematic. I hope that he's able to contribute because he's unbelievable. Catches everything away from his body, already getting 2 feet in at the collegiate level. He's way ahead of a lot of guys. Jalen Reagor getting picked before him in the draft is laughable, in my opinion.
I was happy about that.
Yeah, well, hey, it's finally, the way I see it is that when, Joe Douglas is the kind of GM that actually knows what he's doing, that's the way it looks to me. Those types of, when somebody's that prepared and that knowledgeable, these are the types of things that happen to those GMs. He slipped, we got him. For once, it's going to benefit us. Crowder, great. I think the biggest thing for me is that this was Vincent Smith's year. The Jets love him. They were going to give him every opportunity to succeed, and it looks like he's going to be out about 2 months. I think that is the unfortunate kick in the pants. That's the one that upsets me most right now. The hammy, we'll get past it, all those types of things. But I think Vincent Smith taking a 2-month injury right now is where I start to get nervous. Bringing in Chris Hogan, it is what it is. He had 8 catches last year or something like that, if I remember correctly. But I also think that we're a lot better because it boils down to one thing: Sam Darnold having time. He had none last year. He's already proven that he can do more with less than a lot of other people in his position. I think that if we give him time, guys like Perryman, guys like Crowder, Herndon, Griffin, Bell, we're going to be more than enough to jump off the 32nd number there.
Yeah, that's kind of where I fall as well. I think, when they look at wide receivers purely from Perriman's kind of been a journeyman the last few years. They saw the last 5 weeks of them that were really good, but, by and large, from Baltimore to Cleveland to Tampa, maybe didn't live up to that first round pick, level that you were kind of looking for. With Mims, yeah, it's frustrating with the hamstring right now. Hopefully he can kind of get back into a groove when we eventually get him back. Not having preseason and limited hitting is probably going to hurt the development. I think we'll probably see a lot of the younger players start to catch on more into the season than you might have otherwise seen. with Crowder. Love him as a slot. Big fan of Herndon and Griffin. I think Sam uses the tight ends and specifically the players that can kind of work the center of the field between the hashes. So Bell out of the backfield is going to be a big thing for us. That offensive line is really the biggest thing, and you guys all touched on it. Having Becton and then McGovern and Fant right there, those three alone are an upgrade. Van Roten, I think, should be an upgrade from Brian Winters, and then Alex Lewis, obviously returning from last year. I think at worst, we're going to see improvements from every skill position player. And now the Jets, probably rightfully so, have, they have to prove everything. I was saying this yesterday on my show. It's a lot of potential. It could be good potential. It could be bad potential with this season. It's, is this offensive line going to gel with the limited hitting, with the limited reps? Are these guys going to have, a cohesive offensive unit? Like I said, it's probably going to be a little bit into the season. Benjamin says he came out here to support my boy Chris the Entertainah. Just need the Rams to beat the Giants week 4. So Chris, Benjamin, I guess clearly a Rams fan.
Appreciate you popping by, Benjamin. Yeah, he's a big Rams fan. We got him week 4. We'll see how that plays out. But you were kind of reminding me about the Giants with what you were talking about your offensive line. It's the same thing for us. We've got a lot of moving parts on our offensive line. Andrew Thomas, the rookie left tackle. We got Nick Gates, who's never played center before, looks to be the favorite going into camp to be the starting center. And then on the right side, it's a battle between Fleming. Probably Fleming's going to get it, the former New England Patriot. And we have a lot of unfamiliarity also. So I think it's going to be a huge challenge for both teams, being that you have so many new pieces on both offensive lines that I think both fan bases expect to be improved. But the fact that we don't have any preseason games, you've got like 12 padded practices. I don't know the Jets schedule off the top of my head. The Giants schedule is brutal. I mean, we played Bosa. We played the 49ers early. We played the Rams, as he just stated. Aaron Donald is nobody to sneeze about. You got the Steelers. They got 2 great pass rushers. So I think both offensive lines are going to be tested very early. And I could see both of them getting off to a bit of a sluggish start. But hopefully, as the season goes along for both teams, the offensive lines improve. I'm excited to see what Darnold's got this year. I never root against the Jets. They're my second team, I guess you could say. I think Darnold has not been given the right opportunity to succeed with the Jets. They didn't support him with a good offensive line his first 2 years in the league. Hasn't had great weapons. He still doesn't have great weapons, but they definitely improved that offensive line. So I'm excited to see if Darnold could take that step forward this year. I think he's going to have a good year for the Jets. I really do.
Now, how do you guys feel about the Chris Hogan signing? I was sort of lukewarm on it. I don't think I think more than anything, it's probably a replacement for like Josh Doxson, who I didn't really think was going to make the roster anyway. Now with some of the injuries, I think Hogan's going to, by virtue of injury, make the roster if we're still kind of limping through the preseason. Joe, I'll kick it to you first. What do you think about Chris Hogan?
Yeah, one, I didn't really comment on the offensive line, but I agree with Chris that obviously with any position, with any rookie, with any position that's new, quarterback to receiver, defensive lineman to defensive lineman, linebacker to new system, whatever, it's going to take some time. So any offensive line, especially the Jets, I don't know what the Giants situation is in terms of how many new guys they have, but the Jets are going into week 1 with 5 new starters from week 1 last year. Alex Lewis being the only guy who was the starter last year. So you have 4 new guys working together, and that position is so much about cohesion that they're going to struggle. And we play the Bills, we play the Niners, we play the Broncos with Chubb and Von Miller like the first couple of weeks of the season. So you're going to struggle. Becton's going to take some time. All those other guys are going to take some time. Fant's going to have to get used to the right side. So while it's an upgrade, it's going to take some time for them to click. Same thing with the receivers with Darnold, etc. In terms of Chris Hogan, I put it out on Twitter. I'm very meh on the signing. It's a veteran guy. He's been injured. I would much rather have a guy looking into free agency. There's guys like Paul Richardson out there who have had some good seasons in Seattle. There's a guy out there in Gabriel from the Bears a couple of years ago. Not the Bears a couple of years ago, who I would like to see the Jets sign. So not too big on the Chris Hogan signing, to be completely honest. It's a good depth move because the problem with the Jets receiving core right now is, one, they don't have that top guy. And they don't have depth. You could talk about Vincent Smith and Barrios, just like we talked about Clyde Gates. They're all hype. They haven't proven anything, so they lack a lot of depth. So I get bringing Chris Hogan, but honestly, I would rather see a guy like Demaryius Thomas, who is not great, but at the same time, he proved something last year, like 400 or 500 yards, caught the ball and was thrown to him, etc. So I'm not huge on the Hogan signing. It's a depth piece. He's not going to make a huge impact, and if he does, there's a problem. Perryman's hurt, Mims isn't developing, Herndon's hurt, whatever it may be. So it's okay, I guess. It's nothing to write home about.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head with the Demaryius Thomas. That was what struck me as the oddest thing for me. I saw DT as the knows the offense clearly, worked with Sam last year. Seems like that would have been the natural progression in terms of, hey, we need someone like in a pinch in a shortened season when there's going to be less reps going around. I wonder if it was about the money, like maybe Chris Hogan's going for the vet minimum and DT wanted $1-2 million or something like that. I've sort of projected that the Jets are not going to bring in any big free agents at all or make any sort of trades at least this season because of the cap going down, probably down to 175 next year. And then if the Jets can roll over as much as possible, we're going to be in a really good cap situation going into 2021. Greenbean, what do you think about the Chris Hogan signing?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, again, he was injured last year, so his production was down. So we haven't seen much from him in the past couple of years. It's very, I mean, it doesn't elicit much excitement. As far as Demaryius Thomas, he also had quite a few big drops last year, and maybe there's maybe they looked at that. Maybe they don't want to bring him back. I don't know. I also thought that would be the easiest, especially with a season like this where, there's just so little time for people to get acclimated. I thought he would be the easiest option. But Chris Hogan, I don't know. I don't really have much to say one way or the other. It's just a guy. He has produced. That's about all I got for Chris Hogan.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess I want to get some of your guys' takes on some of the more popular topics that haven't been covered at nauseum, but I want to get your opinions on the show. So Chris, I believe, were you on the show after the Jamal Adams trade?
Yeah, I think like 2 days after.
Okay, let's get your opinions because I want to hear everything from you again, and then we'll go into Joe.
Jets hit a home run. The Jets hit an absolute home run with that trade. They got 2 first-round picks in the trade. They swapped I think it was a 5th for a 4th or something like that.
4th for a 3rd.
Well, yeah, 4th for a 3rd.
Yeah.
So, I mean, based on the Jets situation, knowing that he was forcing his way off the team now for the last 2 years, he's a safety that you were going to have to pay as one of the top 5 probably paid defensive players, period, at one of the least important positions on a defense. He's a great player. Like I said when we went live, trust me, I know. I saw him rip the ball out of this guy's hands. I was at the game. He's a phenomenal player, one of the best safeties in the league. But based on the situation that the Jets were in, you couldn't have asked to get more than what they got. I thought it was an absolute home run by the Jets. Obviously, it's going to hurt your team this year. You couple that with the fact with Mosley, I think, opted out. So the Jets defense definitely took a big hit this year. But for the future, I thought it was a great move. And I think the Jets are building their team the right way, to be honest with you. He wasn't going to be here anyway. So they made the trade. It was very similar to the Beckham trade. I talked about that where the Giants wanted to get rid of Beckham, and they knew if they waited another year, they wouldn't have gotten what they got. And I think it was the same thing with Adams. If the Jets waited another year, they would have gotten even less. So based on the situation, you couldn't have asked for more than what the New York Jets ended up with.
Joe, how do you feel about the trade?
Yeah, they hit a home run, especially in terms of, with him doing what he was doing in the media, telling fans he wants to go to Dallas and the tweets and calling out Chris Johnson and Douglas and all this stuff through Manish Mehta. I thought the Jets were going to get less than they did, but of course the Jets get that first round pick, and now it's in a season where we don't know what the hell's going to happen with the draft. So it's kind of the Jets' luck, but he forced his way out. He wasn't going to be here. Ideally, you don't lose, in my opinion, one of the generational talents the Jets have had. I've said it before. I think it's Curtis Martin, Revis, Mangold. You can argue, and Jamal Adams over the last few years, homegrown guys who they've had. So ideally, he's a Jet for a long time. They have the cap money to sign him, but with saying that, you're getting 2 first-round picks, a starting level safety back for a guy who didn't want to be here. I do think they're building the right way. They're going to build around Darnold. They're going to continue to build that line, and I think Douglas is going to start to emphasize the important positions that McCagnon didn't. Corner, outside linebacker, obviously offensive line is going to be a big emphasis of Joe Douglas, and I don't want to minimize what Adams was. He's a top-notch player in the league. You know, he's a safety, but I would have to disagree with some other people in terms of safety is important in defenses now, especially with the emphasis on tight ends and running backs because of how much they're targeted. So now you have, you know, a safety who's taking out guys like Kittle or Ertz, like you saw Adams did last year in a couple of plays. The emphasis on spread offenses and quick hitter type plays, you're going to have Jamal Adams taking out those type of plays. Obviously, blitzing, he was a huge impact in that region. His defense in the run game is not going to be replaced by anybody they bring in. There's just no way. He was elite in the run game. You saw Saquon Barkley clearly struggle against him, not throwing shots at the Giants, but Jamal Adams was doing work that game. That's a game people can point to. So it sucks to lose a guy like that. It's going to hurt us this year, but for the long term, addressing some more important positions, like I said, safety is an important position, but corners more important, offensive lines more important, receivers in terms of one-on-one, that's kind of, you know, whichever, pick your poison. But for Darnold, I'd rather have a really good receiver than a good safety at this point. So good trade. It sucks. It stings a little bit, but he had to be traded. I just don't want to completely say, oh, he's a trash player now that he's on the team. You know, that's unfair. So,
Green Bean, how are you feeling about the trade now that we're a few weeks into this?
Well, I love it. I mean, the thing is I was a Jamal Adams supporter for longer than my intellect would have would tell me to have done that. Like we've talked about this in the past, Ryan. I kind of defended him far past when I knew logically he was defensible. And I did that because of, just like Joe was saying, hey man, how often do the Jets get these guys that are considered the best in the league at their position and all that jazz? But when you boil it down, Jamal Adams' impact in big games wasn't something that's irreplaceable. Most of his stats come against rookie quarterbacks and against trash teams and all that kind of stuff. Again, I loved him. I thought he was great. Sometimes his stats didn't show up in the tackle per se, you know, as in a number, but he was affecting the game. But when it all boils down, Jamal Adams is replaceable as far as the impact on the field. Getting 2 number 1 picks, you know, again, it's a wacky year as far as college football and all that, but it's still a first round pick. And then the next year we'll have another one. These are the kinds of trades that change organizations. And when you have a general manager that's competent, you know, and which Joe Douglas actually looks to be, I feel like we can do something with that. Keep holding on to a safety that for all intents and purposes is a loudmouth, selfish, you know, it's all about him, man. He calls himself a leader. Leaders generally don't do that. They don't talk about themselves being leaders and all that kind of stuff. He's going to be more than likely an issue everywhere he goes, and he will not end his career in Seattle, most likely. So it's just one of those things. Me personally, I probably would have let him sit there on his contract and not even taken it, but that's why I'm not a GM, because I get personal. And I'll just say, hey, fuck you, man. Sit on the sidelines
okay.
and bitch, you know, bitch all you want. You know, I own you for 4 more years, including the 2 franchise tags. And then at the end of that, I'll trade you to Detroit. And that'll be that. So getting 2 firsts and a third, I think is just about as good a value. I mean, I saw an argument that said that last year's first, like if we would have traded them to hypothetically Dallas for a first and a third, which wasn't exactly real. It was just a rumor thing going on. But if we would have gotten the first last year, it would have been worth more than the 2 firsts coming up next year. And I do understand that logic. And maybe Joe Douglas could be held over the coals for that, for holding on to him too long. But me personally, I think it was great. I think you got to take those shots to be able to revitalize and change your entire franchise with one player. If you can do that, you do it. That's how, unless it's a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I still love this trade. I think the 2 first-round picks and the 3rd-round pick were just, you know, home runs. Getting a starting caliber safety too just kind of eases the transition getting into Ashton Davis. You didn't want him to start, you know, day one. But I want to talk a little bit about the college football season and how this draft could look. Every team is going to be dealing with these types of issues. So it's not like this is an exclusive issue just with the Jets. The Jets just have 2 cracks at it this year. Now you're going to see guys that get overdrafted that, you know, if we had a season, maybe they don't go that high. You're going to see guys that are really good that fall further down. Like maybe that Seattle pick that could be in the mid-20s may wind up being a top 10, top 15 caliber player if the chips kind of fall the right way. This draft is very much going to benefit the teams with very good scouting departments and good player evaluation skills. And I think Joe Douglas has that. He brought in Phil Savage, who used to run the Reese's Senior Bowl. I think he's got an eye for talent. Douglas is real close with Todd McShay. They were roommates going through college. I just think there's a lot of emphasis on recruiting with this regime. If it was a McCagnon, trade and we got those, we were depending on those draft picks, I'd probably be a little more leery. Now, we got to get some of Douglas's draft picks on the field because a lot of them have been a little bit banged up with, I think it was Clark, Hall, friggin' Mims. A whole bunch of them right now are currently not practicing. But yeah, that's I'm happy with the trade. I think with Seattle, they probably need to win a Super Bowl in the next, at least while Adams is on their team. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the next 2 years, but if they win a Super Bowl with him, that trade's probably worth it for them. For the Jets, look, Jamal was never going to re-sign with the Jets, so getting anything for him, especially the amount we got, was definitely beneficial. Benjamin, thank you again. He says, how do you think the Pats will do this year? Obviously, no Brady, and with Newton, is the team playoff bound? We'll go around our panel. Chris, what do you think about the Patriots for this year?
Yeah, I really want to talk about that college football thing, too. I guess we'll get back to that. But
sure,
as far as
we'll do that, then we'll get into the Cam Newton stuff.
Oh, you want to do the college first?
Let's do the college stuff first.
Let's do the college stuff first. I think it's an interesting offseason, obviously, with college. I personally don't think they're going to play at all. I know that they're saying that the SEC is going to try to play, and the Pac-12, I think, already opted out. The Big Ten already opted out. And they've talked about playing in the spring. There's no way that's going to happen because then you're asking these guys to basically get drafted, play, and then have a month off before you got to get to training camp for the NFL. It's just not going to happen. So in terms, I agree 100% with what you said. Teams that have a strong scouting department are going to have a huge advantage over everybody else. As a matter of fact, I brought this up in one of my videos with the Giants because the Giants, you look at their coaching staff, not you guys probably aren't super familiar with it. They have a brand new coaching staff. They brought in 5 coaches from the collegiate ranks just last year, one of which was the lead recruiter from Marshall. They've got the D-line coach, Coach Chaos from Penn State. They've got Brett Bielema, a former head coach in college. They've got a number of coaches on their coaching staff familiar with the college ranks as recently as last year, not to mention the ties to Nick Saban with Joe Judge. So I think the Giants actually have a huge advantage coming into next year's draft if there isn't a college season. But, it's definitely going to be a challenge. You're going to have to rely on the year before's tape. It's not going to be a normal evaluation process. And my guess would be the combine warriors, the guys that really stand out at the combine, being that that's the biggest thing that they're going to be able to judge players on if there's not a season, I would think that their stock will be helped even more than in most years at the combine because that's going to be one of the biggest ways to measure these players, unless you go back a year's worth of film, which I'm sure they'll do. But I do think the combine might even have more significance going into this draft if there's not a college football season.
Joe, what do you think about the interesting dynamics going on with the college football season and recruiting for the draft?
I don't know. That's the problem. It's just look at examples of even for the Jets team, like Cam Clark wouldn't have been drafted as high if he didn't have that game versus Clemson. Becton would have been a second, third round pick. He didn't explode until this year. Joe Burrow would have been a 5th or 6th round pick. There's plenty of guys who rise and fall on boards. Quarterbacks too. There's guys who are viewed as the number 1, 2 guy and then drop down to the second round, after a year. So you're going to have a lot of busts. And like you guys are saying, they're going to have to rely heavily on scouting departments and old tape. But old tape doesn't give the guys opportunity to step up the next year. So it's going to be real. It's going to be a lot of good guessing, evaluation and film and projections. It's going to be pretty crazy. I'm hoping that the Jets, I never root for injuries, so I'm never going to root for Russell Wilson to get injured, but he did just have a new baby. So if he wants to opt out for COVID, and then they finish in the top 10 and they get a better pick, towards the bottom of the first round, I feel like there's going to be a ton of busts. So, if the Jets get 2 first-round picks and they can really hit on one of those guys, I think that's a win with this year coming up. But like you said, I have a lot of faith in Douglas. He's impressed me so far, even with signings like Fant, which I've talked about why I like that than other Jets fans. And trust me, I'm not just going to hype guys. There's guys like Peanut I don't like. Desir I think is overrated, but Fant and some of his evaluation I definitely like. So I have faith in him. Phil Savage, the Senior Bowl guy, all that. They have a lot of they poured a lot into their scouting department. So it's a toss up, honestly. You have to hope that they can somehow nail the draft, but it's a huge question. And do they have a season? I don't know. It's really hard to predict. I'm getting married in Antigua in April. Am I in April? I don't know. You have the same situation as I do, Ryan. Like, is it gonna happen? I hope so. I don't know.
Yeah, it's totally a crapshoot at this point. I got my fingers crossed. Green Bean, what do you think about the college football season and how that affects the evaluation process?
Yeah, I think it really does fall back to the types of people that you have in your organization. Alexander, Savage, Hogan, all these types of guys that we now have, when a couple years ago it was Mike McCagnon, who just clearly didn't have any idea how to, any idea how to build a team, right? So it's going to benefit guys who have their ducks in a row, that know what they're doing as far as evaluation, as far as analytics, all those types of things are concerned. Joe just nailed it. I mean, there are guys, look at Quinnen Williams. If he never played that last year, he's literally, this guy might even be an undrafted free agent for all we know. He had that monster year, but it was 1 year. Joe Burrow is a great example of that. But who knows, but so having guys that actually know what they're doing, they're going to have a leg up on the slapdick organizations, like the Jets have been for so many years. It's just so embarrassing when you look back at our staff, but so I don't know, man. I think I'd like to see them do some sort of a season, but I understand that I'm not one who is, I'm traveling a lot, man. So I see a lot of different versions of handling all this stuff, and it's scary and it's confusing out here on the road. So I do understand. I'm also rooting for Russell Wilson not to play this year. I don't give a shit how
he had a new baby. He had a new baby.
That's it. I know. I was like, this guy's definitely going to opt out. His wife is so supportive. I hate her. So that would be really, really great to give us, a higher pick. But here's the thing: when it boils down, we have 2 shots in the first round, right? Most teams and us, in how many years, we only get 1. So we have 2 shots with an evaluation-based organization. Okay, these are scouts, man. These guys know what they're looking at. Savage ran the Senior Bowl for how many years? These guys know how to look at players. There is a handicap, but it's not just the Jets that are handicapped. It's everybody that has the equal handicap. I'd like to see them have a combine, because then, like Chris just said, man, are we going to be looking at those measurables, aren't we? How high did he jump? Did you say? How far did he jump? So we're going to be doing all that kind of stuff. But I think it does lend itself to being more beneficial for people who actually know what they're talking about, not just pretenders. And we have that, I think. It looks that way anyway.
Yeah, I want to comment quickly on that too. I know we've been circulating, but I think a lot of smart teams too, who aren't like with the top talent, like with the top tier guys, like first through 10 picks. I feel like a lot of smart teams are going to trade down to get more shots at guys because of all the movement, and guys like Quinnen Williams, Joe Burrow, all those guys who might be floating out there, who are going to take those steps you don't really know about. So I feel like a lot of smart teams are going to trade down a lot and get a lot more shots into that bucket.
Yeah, I think that's probably what we're going to see.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. Now, I feel like there's going to be, like, the first round picks generally, a lot of people know them. Like, even if they're, maybe a second round talent and you're overdrafting them a little bit, I feel like you have a decent idea for the majority of guys where they're probably going to fall if they're an elite talent. Now, Joe hit the nail on the head with trading down. Do you try to move one of these first round picks for maybe a pick next year, or a pick, multiple picks in the mid rounds?
Yeah,
there's a few ways you can kind of work it, and I don't exactly know the right option that the Jets could take. I want to get into some of these super chats. Benjamin, thank you for waiting so long. How do you guys think the Pats will do this year? Obviously, no Brady with Newton. What is their team? Are they playoff bound? Chris, I'll go to you first.
And that was a great point that you brought up about the another guy that I was thinking about as you were saying that, Baker Mayfield. Mayfield was a guy that came out of nowhere also. There's been so many players. But as far as the Patriots go, I'm never going to rule them out. I know Jets fans may not want to hear that. I respect Bill Belichick way too much. That coaching staff is way too talented. They cheat probably to get it done. But regardless, I'm not going to rule out the New England Patriots. Do I think they'll win the division? Probably not. Right now, I got the Bills pegged as the favorite. I think they got one of the top 2 or 3 defenses in the league. Plus, they added Mario Addison, which was kind of the weakness on that defense to begin with. They had a nice edge rusher. They drafted the guy out of Iowa as well. I can't remember his name off the top. Oh, Epinesa, another good edge rusher. So I like the Bills' defense a lot. I think Allen will improve. He only threw 2 interceptions over his last 11 games last year. So I like the Bills to be the leader of the pack in your division, but I'm not ruling out the Patriots, especially with a expanded playoff field. I could see them sneaking in, getting a wild card, or maybe even winning the division. I'm excited. That's another storyline I'm excited about. I'm excited to see what Belichick and McDaniels could do with Cam Newton. I think it's an interesting dynamic. It's always had they've had an originator on the offensive end, whether it was really being the first team to have the platoon running backs or having the 2 tight ends used as receivers with Hernandez and Gronkowski. They're always a step ahead of everybody else. So I'm excited to see what they could do with Cam Newton. But yeah, I'm not ruling them out. I probably got them around 8 or 9 wins, but they're a tough team to evaluate because so many players opted out as well. But the Patriots, historically, they find ways to get it done. They get the most out of players, right? You were talking about Chris Hogan. Who was Chris Hogan? Who was Wes Welker? I mean, they find Danny Woodhead. You guys let go. He became a rock star over there. So they find ways to get it done. People buy into the system. So I'm not ruling them out, but I'm a little skeptical going in.
So you think they make the playoffs?
Fringe playoff team. 8 wins, fringe playoff team. Maybe 9. Yeah.
Joe, what about you?
Pats?
Yeah. Yeah, fringe playoff. I know you don't want to hear that.
You're crazy.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Chris. It's because of the coaching staff, and coaching is so important. And the Bills, like, they have a lot of solid players, but not like, and they're starting to accumulate some top talent now too. But they're a really good team because of how disciplined their defense is. Their rules in their defense, they don't break them. They don't blow coverages. They're really, really super disciplined. So that's why they're really good. I agree. I think they're going to be probably a 10-ish win team. It depends on what Josh Allen does this season, if he takes steps in the right direction. We'll see if he's the long-term starter there. I think he's in one of the best situations a young quarterback could be in with the talent surrounding his team and the coaching staff. So they're a really well-run organization, which sucks to say. They didn't just get lucky. They're a really good organization. And the Pats, it's coaching. And now you also have a new wrinkle. Listen, they won a lot of games with Matt Castle. They don't have the same talent they had then. And, what was it, 2007, 8, 9, wherever that year was that Matt Castle was there, and won like 11 games. They don't have the talent on that roster that they did then. They don't have Landon Roberts anymore. They don't have Van Noy. They don't have a couple of guys left. There's a lot of guys who left in their team. I think their right tackle, Cannon, also opted out of the season, so that's a big hit. But now they also have Cam Newton, who, if he stays healthy, they have a guy who they've never had before. Guys who are as smart as the Patriots coaching staff, being able to run triple option RPOs concerns me greatly. I don't care about how good their weapons are or whatever. Those guys being able to use a guy who can move scares the hell out of me because of what they did with guys like Castle. And Brady's great and all that stuff, but he's immobile. So great in stepping on the pocket, etc., pocket awareness. But having Cam Newton, if he's healthy, just his legs alone, it scares me. So I think they'll be an 8-9 win team. Depends on how the rest of the conference, plays out, and they'll be a fringe playoff team. Probably get eliminated relatively early, but they'll be there. They're too well coached to not be there.
Green Bean, how are you feeling about the Patriots this year?
Well, first, I think that they're the top team until they're not the top team, man. How many years have we been saying this is the year, the dynasty? It's got to be 20 years we've been saying this kind of stuff. So they're the top team until they're not the top team. The Bills don't impress me as long as they have Allen at the helm. They're good team and everything. They've done a great job surrounding him with talent. The player himself doesn't scare me too much. Cam Newton needs to show that he can stay healthy before he scares me. I think he's 0-8 in his last 8 starts. Forgive me if I have that wrong, but something like that. And he hasn't been able to stay healthy. Let him run around, let him get hit, and we'll see Jared Stidham before we know it. But like was said, that's still the Patriots. It's still Belichick. But I think losing Brady is obviously a hit. The other hit, man, is Scarnecchia. And I saw a couple of guys in our chat. Jake Klein was talking about it as well. Scarnecchia is about as good of an offensive line coach as is in the NFL, and he retired. So that's a big one, man. Their offensive line, all they are allowed to hold a little bit more than maybe some other teams. That is what it is. It's real, man. It's real. But that all said, he's a great coach, and they lost him. So losing Brady, Brady losing Scarnecchia, having 6 people opt out or whatever it was, those are going to be hard to overcome. But if anybody can, it's that asshole Belichick. I'm sick of him, quite frankly. But I don't see the Pats being fringe anything until we actually get some good teams that can take them, knock them down. They're still the Patriots, the way I see it. 8 wins. I'm sorry, Chris, that ain't happening.
You got them at least 10 or 11. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I listen, man. If I was a Jets fan, I'd respect them too. Trust me. I think every fan should respect them. They've torn your guys' hearts out for years, so I completely get it, and I respect them. I'm going to say 8 or 9, but I wouldn't be shocked if they go out and win 10 or 11 games. I'm not going to be surprised at all. Like you just said with Matt Castle, they won 11 games with Matt Castle. I mean, they could get it done. There's no doubt about it. They could find ways to win football games.
Yeah, that's a big thing for me is you guys harped on it, the coaching staff. You look at what he's done with Castle, Brissett, Garoppolo over the course of the last decade or so, and it just until he's gone, I have a hard time believing the Patriots are going to be a bottom rung team. And I think a lot of what's going to hinge on this record, same thing with the Jets, is how do the Dolphins look? How does Tua or Fitzpatrick, whoever starts down there, that could be an easy 2 wins if they don't gel. The Jets could wind up being an easy 2 wins if our offensive line just falls apart. There's a lot of, ifs going into the season. We don't exactly know what it's going to turn out like. But I am really excited to watch what Cam Newton does in that offense and see how they cater the offense to him. Because you got to think Bill Belichick is going to put him in the best position to win, or specifically McDaniels. So I'm going to say, I want to say 10-win team. I'll probably say 9. I think Newton's probably going to miss some games, but I think they'll make the playoffs. I still think the Bills probably win the division at 10 wins. They seem like, at least on paper, they got the most talent. I want to get into a few of these super chats. Benjamin again says, Chris, relax your face, bro. You look like you just got dumped and forced to meet your ex. And then
I'm just listening, Ben. I'm just listening.
What's that mean?
Charlie says, here's some money for a new Jets jersey. I'm wearing Sheldon Richardson right now. I was gonna wear Sam Darnold. I always wear Sam Darnold though, so I got to get a different jersey.
That's odd.
I love me some Sheldon Richardson. I like it. It kills me that he kind of went out the way he went out, but I don't know.
What you want to re-sign him? Leon Washington, Thomas Jones, Curtis Martin. Nothing else.
No, dude. I had a Jamal Adams. That one now says impeached on the back of it. I have what do I have? I got Richardson, Darnold. Right? I don't have a Revis. I never got a Revis jersey.
You have a Sheldon Richardson jersey, but not a Revis jersey.
I know. Revis was gone by the time I got Sheldon Richardson. That's the thing. So when I was in, what was this? This had to be last year of high school or first year of college. I got a Brett Favre jersey. I was like, woo, Brett Favre's on the team. I was like, this is great. Now it says 4 inches on the back because of the whole dick pic thing. Jets Life says, only retired Jet jerseys. We got you, Ryan. Throw that Richardson jersey out. Look, I'm working on getting a jersey right now for my channel, and I'm ordering it from DHgate because I tried reaching out to NFL.com. I tried reaching out to, Fanatics or whatever just to make a custom jersey. It's going to say Jets Talk across the back, but I can't get a custom 3 numbers of 247. So I went to China, and it's going to take another month before it might get here. So I'm hoping it looks all right.
China, and the patch is upside down in a different color.
Yep,
so
I got one sideways. It was $40,
yeah.
So I was like, all right, let's roll the dice on $40. If it doesn't look good, I'll get Jets Talk and just have 24 on it, and then people just think I have a Revis jersey. Then it'll be fine.
There you go.
Whatever.
There you go.
Bite me.
Christopher says, I can't buy Jets jerseys anymore. I can't buy player jerseys.
I get screwed every time. We got a guy for 3 years.
Yeah.
He's off the team. I'm just going to have fan on the back or something.
I'm doing
like
shirts, and I'm going to rock the Jericho Cotchery and the Leon Washingtons of the world.
That's right.
Those are great. You can't, I want to get a Mangold one. I love Mangold.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Christopher says, Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold are good quarterbacks, but they are not as good as Trevor Lawrence. How do you guys feel about Trevor Lawrence coming out this year? And is he as good as people are making him out to be? Chris, you first.
Yeah, that's a guy right now that I know the ACC hasn't canceled their season yet. If you're Trevor Lawrence, you have a built-in excuse now to sit out. A lot of times players, they won't risk getting hurt. They won't play as hard because they're worried about not being able to get that payday. If Trevor Lawrence doesn't play a day this year, he's going to be the number 1 overall pick. I mean, he's been the most talked about quarterback since Andrew Luck probably coming out, even more so than Sam Darnold, who was probably the most talked about before now Trevor Lawrence. But Trevor Lawrence, by most people's standards, is the golden goose. I mean, everybody's coming out. They're saying that he's far and away the best prospect. And I would agree with that. I mean, listen, I'm a Giants fan. I'm wearing Daniel Jones' jersey. I'm excited for what Daniel Jones showed in year 1. He's still got a lot to work on. And I said positive things about Darnold as well. But I'm also honest. Listen, if the Giants get the number 1 pick, that means a couple of things. That means Daniel Jones probably didn't play very well. And that means that Dave Gettleman's going to be fired, the guy that drafted Daniel Jones. So if I'm being honest with myself, if the Giants get the number 1 pick, they're probably taking Trevor Lawrence. And it would probably be the same thing for the Jets, if we're being honest. If the Jets get the number 1 pick, that means Sam Darnold didn't play very well. So, and you have an opportunity to draft the guy, not to mention Darnold's entering the end of his rookie contract. So at that point, Darnold now 3 years in the league, hasn't really taken that huge step forward. If you're picking 1, I don't think you can pass up on him. I think Trevor Lawrence is a bona fide superstar as long as he can remain healthy in the NFL. And I know people have said that about other prospects in the past, but he's pretty safe. And I think who's ever picking 1, if you're not taking him, you're trading down. I think he's going to be the number 1 pick, regardless of who has it. And if you don't need a quarterback, I think the team will be trading down.
Joe, what do you think about Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah, without getting into like the X's and O's of him, he's elite. But to say he's better than Darnold and Jones, who have played in the NFL and have proven something, not based on stats, all this other stuff. We've talked about Darnold supporting weapons. There's been plenty of guys who have been talked about. You know, Jamarcus Russell was a bust. Jameis Winston is a bust. So you can't say this guy is better than him because that's not factual. It's just not. He better prospect, sure, but he's a prospect. He hasn't played an NFL snap, so we don't know that. But at the same time, like you said, if the Jets are picking 1, that means Darnold was, regardless of coaching, whatever. They upgraded their offense a little bit. Their defense might be around the same. Just in terms of they are healthier overall. I know they lost Adams, but I think they'll float around average. So if you have an average defense with some upgraded weapons, with an offensive line, etc., and they're picking 1, Darnold didn't play very well. But I'm not. With saying that, I'm not giving up on Darnold. I'm not even close to giving up on Darnold.
Same thing for me with Jones. It's just hypothetical. I don't think we'll have the first pick either. You have
the 31st ranked offensive line with the injuries the Jets had last year. Snap to throw, he had, I think, the second lowest time in the NFL last year with guys who are not getting open. It's impossible. And that's why I defend Gase a little bit. I don't like Gase a lot. Like his off the field stuff, he's not a leader, which a head coach needs to be a leader first, in my opinion. We see that with the Harbaughs, or the one at least in the Ravens. The Ravens, he's a really good leader. So that's the making of a head coach, leader first, in my opinion. So he doesn't have that, which is why I don't want him to be a head coach. But in terms of his offense, I want to see any coach in the NFL coach a team with Luke Falk, whose problem coming out of college was pressure in his face and him throwing the ball crazy, whatever angles and all this stuff, and off his back foot and up into triple coverage when he was pressured, playing behind the 31st ranked offensive line, with Le'Veon Bell, who is a guy who really relies on his offensive line. That's obviously why running back is the least important position in the NFL, because it relies a lot on the offensive, like 95%. But Le'Veon Bell being so patient and not hitting holes when they're there and waiting for a bigger hole to open, he really depended on the offensive line, and that wasn't there. Herndon was out, all this stuff. Robbie Anderson was ineffective because guess what? To throw the ball deep, you need to take a drop back, 5 to 7 steps and be able to step into a throw, and they couldn't do that. So I'm not there on Darnold. I know I'm not even going in the right direction. We're talking about Trevor Lawrence. I started to get into Darnold. So, and they're not going to finish with their first pick. I know we have Patriots fans who are in here saying that Darnold sucks, Becton sucks, and all this stuff. But listen, if you're a Patriots fan listening to a Jets and Giants panel right now, that is
Greedy,
I just want to say I
completely
agree with you. I think both quarterbacks are going to be good this year. I don't think either team is going to be picking near number 1. I think Darnold's going to be better this year. I really do. So it was just a hypothetical for me. If either team had the first pick, I think you'd have to think long and hard. And I completely get your argument with saying that you can't say he's better yet because he's never played in the NFL. I was talking more along the lines as a
prospect for sure.
A raw prospect,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, whatever.
What about you? What do you think about Trevor Lawrence?
Go ahead and backtrack. So here's the thing. Like, you guys can see the color of my beard, right? I'm clearly the oldest man in this room, and I remember a day back in my no back, I remember a day when there were zero Patriots fans in the world. Okay, so you got all these Pats fanatics and all this kinds of shit. I talked to a season ticket holder Patriots fan last year. He was rubbing it in my face about the Jets and all this stuff, and I heard him say to a Buffalo Bills fan, "Oh, you're a Buffalo fan? I think we might play you this year." That's what he said to a Buffalo Bills fan. I said, "You think?" He goes, "I'm not sure. I think." I said, "You're not a fan." And though that to me epitomizes Patriots fans. When this thing does crumble, which it will, you won't see them anywhere. Pat's fanatic, he'll have something like Pack fanatic or whatever team that he jumps to. This is normal stuff. It's fine. Everybody sucks. Look at his Denzel Mims sucks. Sucks. Well, yeah, whatever, man. It's all well and good. Just wait till your dynasty's over, and we'll see what team you like next. As far as Trevor Lawrence, Joe nailed it, man. I mean, these guys coming out of college, you can say whatever you want. He's an elite prospect. That's great. That means nothing. I remember Tim Couch was an elite prospect. Who? Right? Exactly. Nobody remembers who this guy. Ryan Leaf, another one, man. So it's not as easy to say that. As far as Sam Darnold, man, the guy has the goods. I mean, you guys just, you painted it really, really clearly. And I just looked up a stat while Joe was talking real quick. You know that last year, and maybe I read this wrong, last year the Jets had 18 people on IR. 18 on IR, which is
and Green, to interrupt you, that doesn't include Mosley, who has the most guaranteed money because they kept him on the sideline. He wasn't even on our IR, so people don't even factor in that with the money on the IR stat that the Jets did. They were the most injured team by far, like by double. It was ridiculous.
Right. And that's on top of the fact that our line blew balls before all the guys. At the end of the year, we were bringing guys from the practice squad like Jeff Smith, and then he went on IR the week later. It's like, dude, it was so bad. Like, people seem to forget that. I love that. Oh, we beat the Bills' second stringers. We were on our fifth stringers at that point. You know what I mean? What are you talking about, second stringers? So Sam Darnold, to me, has shown so much ability to make lemonade out of lemons over and over and over again. He has had the worst hand outside of Josh Rosen handed to him. Yeah, poor guy. We got to talk about him one day. Just have a full episode about Josh Rosen. But I think if we do have the number one pick and Sam is garbage or whatever, something happens, we can look at it. But I don't see that happening, and I think this is the year that Sam Darnold shuts a lot of people up. We just got to give him time. Like we were saying, the offensive line is going to need some time, but the thing that Joe Douglas did that I like is that most of these guys are very similar skill sets, similar behavioral patterns, similar mindsets, smart players. They look more like a unit than a lot of, when we've pieced together offensive lines before. These guys actually play very similarly. They're, rarely, low penalties, low sacks, all those kinds of things. So I think this unit, and you saw they're all playing Call of Duty together. Didn't you see that? They're the most friends ever.
I love it.
More so.
I love it.
Man. But they're taking every opportunity to be cohesive. I think that it's not going to take that long. That's my hope anyway. I'm being hopeful. But I think they got a good shot. We have some real talent in there. McGovern is a stud. Becton has all the potential in the world. Van Roten wanted to be a Jets fan, a Jets player since he's a little kid. Maybe he'll put more effort in. I don't know. But so it looks good. And I think I may have watched Joe's video on Fence. I might be confusing it, but yeah, I was actually pleasantly surprised learning some things, some more specifics about him. And let's see what we got. If we give Sam time, guys like Bell and Herndon and Crowder, they're going to be doing so much more than they did last year. And it's not just going to be panic throws all over the place. So I think, what are we talking about again? Trevor Lawrence? Yeah.
All right, Joe, I know you got to get out of here. So
I just messaged you. I got a few more minutes.
All right,
I'll let you know.
Cool.
I'll send it to you in the chat when I gotta head out.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. All right, yeah, so Trevor Lawrence, I agree with Chris where if the Jets or Giants wound up with the first overall pick, you probably have to take him because that would mean that, Sam Darnold did not do what he was brought in to do. That said, I 110% believe in Sam Darnold. I think the Jets are going to be picking somewhere between 12 and 15 this year, if I had to guess. And I think we'll probably see a 7-9 year, but it'll be a better 7-9. It'll be something that you can actually enjoy watching. You'll see a more competent offense. We'll see a better understanding of the offense. You're not going to have, the last two games. Realistically, last year the Jets probably should have finished 5-11. You've faced the third string quarterback for the Steelers, then you versed the Bills backups the last 2 weeks of the season. So we had a false sense of record, maybe, if you want to word it that way. I like Trevor Lawrence. I actually have a guy that works for me, or worked for me last year, who went to school, or is going to school in Clemson, had a class with Trevor Lawrence. Not the brightest bulb in the box. So I think Sam, we got a little bit of a smart guy here. So I want to believe in Sam. I want to hold on to him. And I've said this before. There's guys that are going to kind of rip on Sam and say, hey, we got to move on and just go on to the next quarterback. With all these picks we have, I think you just double down on Sam Darnold. You give everything you can to this roster. And then worst case scenario, if Sam is not the guy in 2 years' time, because you give him this year and you give him next year. That's what I give Sam. And then worst case scenario, you go in, you draft, you trade all your picks, you go up and you get the guy, and the foundation for your team is already there. And then you have, maybe Sam in year 5 versus whatever the rookie's going to be, and then you kind of hope Sam builds up some trade value, and you can trade him at some point. I don't know. I believe in Sam. I don't think it's going to get to that point, but that's sort of my thinking there. Let's see who we got in here. Patriots fanatic got his girl scooped by a Jets fan. That's the only reason he's here. I think he actually turned on notifications for this Jet stream, and I think he's got a chubby for us. That's what it is. RJ says, which Jets away games will most likely hold fans this year? If you had to guess, would you go if the tickets were free and we're on a hot streak? I would say that the southern states are probably most likely to have fans in the stands in some capacity. I don't know what Dallas has. Not that we're playing Dallas this year, but Texas in general, I think, originally had allowed 50% fans in their stands. I don't know if that's still currently where they're sitting at. I think the Chiefs just came out, was it today or yesterday, that said, was it 22% or 30% fans in the stands?
Yeah, don't hold me to this, but I'm pretty sure Dallas a couple of days ago said it's about 25%.
Okay.
It all depends on state law.
States are going to try to have some fans.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
look, as you know, I'm literally traveling all over the place. I was in Tennessee and Kentucky and North Carolina not too long ago, and they don't have any rules. Like, you go out and stuff, nobody's wearing masks, nobody's obeying anything. Now, conversely, when you get out west, like Colorado, Utah, and Oregon and all that, where I am now, it's everywhere you go. I mean, it's a whole different thing. So I think, just like Joe said, depending on what the state is actually doing, that's what we're gonna see that effect. It's gonna be different from different places. Some people don't even believe anything's real yet. So,
and not to be like a salty and New York sports fan, because we're gonna have zero fans. To be completely frank, in a competitive advantage type way, I think if one team can't have any fans, another team can't have any fans. That's how I think it should be.
I agree.
And they need to agree to that, because if Jerry Jones can have 25,000 people, listen, you can create some noise with 25,000 people if they're actually cheering. So, if one team can't have them, none of them should be able to have fans.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you look at Vegas. What's the home field advantage? It's 2.5 points. I mean, that's clear. Even if it's a point, that's still a competitive advantage. It makes no sense to have fans in one stadium but not in another. I think it doesn't make any sense.
Plenty of money on TV deals. I think they could suck it up.
Yeah, but you're not going to make hot dog money without them. So.
Yeah, no. What we're going to do is we're going to sell a bunch of cardboard cutouts and we're going to paste them all over MetLife. Just like the Mets, yes. Yeah. I like it. I would if I could see my cardboard cutout out there, I would, hopefully it's there all season, but I would put $100
the NBA's got the virtual fans. I was watching the playoff game today. They've got it's like us basically, but you're sitting in seats.
Yeah. See, the problem is my cardboard cutout would be up in the 300s, so nobody would see me anyway. So
same. I've had season tickets up in the 300s for 7 years now. This is the first year without them for a while.
Let me ask you guys, what do you think of the stadium? What do you guys think of the stadium?
Hate it.
Yeah,
it's a soup can.
Stadium was awesome.
I'm completely.
No, it looks like an AC unit.
I can't stand it.
It does.
I cannot stand it. I shouldn't say I can't stand it. Like, I enjoy going to games, but I thought they could have done such a better job. I was so underwhelmed when I first went to the stadium.
Yeah,
The
it's
fact
very
that it doesn't have a
sterile.
dome is purely asinine. You could have had
Yeah.
like so many more events if you had a dome on that stadium, a retractable roof, or do something that like kind of highlights. I love seeing the stadiums. I think there's a stadium in Mexico that like highlights the terrain of the mountain ranges and anything. Not that we have mountain ranges
Oh,
in
the
Jersey,
swamps
but
of New
but
Jersey.
it'd be cool to see. No, well, yeah, you got that friggin' big snow thing, the indoor ski slope right next door. That's basically a mountain,
those
right?
factories. Yeah.
You got
No,
the
I would love to
FanDuel-
see
the
like
FanDuel
if you could
casino,
see.
whatever.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you could get the New York City skyline or something in there. I don't know.
I just don't get what cost $1
Regardless
billion
of roof.
for that stadium. Like it's so generic. Like there's
New
nothing.
York.
It really is.
And I travel, and
Yeah.
maybe not as much as Green Bean, but I've been to Arizona. I was at the Lucas Oil Stadium with the Colts. I was in, went to Buffalo. I've been to a couple different stadiums, and it's just there's nothing about it that's special. I like the old Giant Stadium. You're more compact. More noise created. MetLife sucks. It really does. The parking sucks. The prices suck. I think they should do what was it named Arthur Blank or whatever it is. Charge $3 for a hot dog, and I'll actually buy one, and you'll make more money because I sneak subs into games. You're not going to check my pockets really, so just I sneak food in. Like if a beer costs $5, $7, I'll buy it. But when you cost me $12 for 12 ounces of beer, there's no way. I'll just get loaded up before the game. I don't care.
Yeah.
Right.
So get
You're
this, my
exactly
dad,
right,
when we
man.
had season tickets back in the day, they used to, this was like pre 9/11, you'd just have a backpack, you'd go in, they'd shake your backpack. If they didn't hear the clink of cans and bottles, you'd be fine. You're in the door. So my
that's
dad
an
used to
issue
stuff,
nowadays.
they would stuff beers inside the gloves. And then even then later on, my dad got Italian subs, like full Italian rolls, and hollowed out the inside and slid beer cans into it. And you were able to bring in food, but you couldn't bring in beer. No one knew. It was pretty impressive.
You can still bring in press.
Oh yeah, you can sneak stuff in. You've seen guys pat them down. It's like, oh yeah, sure.
They don't do a
you.
cavity
You're-
search.
you're-
There's no cavity search there.
Oh, bummer.
Where are you hiding your beer cans, Joe?
I'm saying they don't. I'm just saying you can put it right in the hoodie front pocket. They don't even pat that down. You ever see like that video on like the internet where it's the old guy, he literally goes like this, like he doesn't touch the guy and he just lets everybody in. They kind of do that.
Yep.
It's not really.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it's pretty bad. Let's see. In terms of fans in the stands, I think the biggest impact for us could be, obviously Seahawks if they do have fans, Chiefs with them having fans, anything that generates a lot of noise.
Seahawks are
Basically,
cheaters,
any
though.
team.
Because their stadium concaves, so it reflects, and they have metal bleachers. You know how loud you could be with metal bleachers and like in any of those stadiums?
Yeah.
Like they cheat. So I don't screw them. And by the way, with the stadium too, I don't want to interrupt like too much. The fan experience sucks now too. I don't like.
100%.
I like going to games for tailgates. The fans who come from like Europe and I'm standing up on third down and tell them to sit down. Listen, buddy, like we're having I'm not sitting down on third down. There's just absolutely no way.
Yeah.
And it used to be
Right.
all about that back in the when Giant Stadium, like that Patriots game in 2009. You couldn't hear yourself think that game. And I know the Jets were, and people, the Jets were better then. The Jets just lost 5 games in a row to miss the playoffs with Brett Favre, and now Rex Ryan came in and stuff, but still, like the stadium experience sucks. I like the tailgating; it's the best part of the Jets bus. That's pretty much the best part about the stadium.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
man.
not a fan of the stadium. The parking I feel like is better than what it was the last few times I had season tickets because they were building a stadium, so we lost like way more parking than there was. So I don't know. I think they could have done way better with everything that they had at their disposal, especially when you have 2 teams paying for the stadium. Like you're paying half the cost. Come on, just do something nice.
Dude.
I go down to Florida a pretty good amount because my family's from down there, or not from down there, but they live down there now. Tampa Bay Stadium, so cool with the pirate ship and everything. You got Miami with like Miami Stadium, as like sort of old and maybe goofy as it might be, it's a lot smaller. It almost feels like a tennis stadium. Like it's more intimate. You're like right on top. Like even the nosebleeds in that stadium were good seats. Like I don't feel like you get that same experience in MetLife.
Yeah.
No.
I was disappointed. It looked like a spaceship from the outside too. Nothing about that stadium is attractive. I'm not a fan at all. I was so disappointed when they built that stadium.
Yeah, they need to tear it down.
It's only like
Start
slightly
over.
cool in Knights games when they illuminate all those gray strips. Like that's the only thing that looks kind of cool, but still there's nothing innovative about it. It does suck. So
No.
Yep. I think we all agree.
Neem Laster, thank you for the super chat. He says, "I hope there's no scenario where the Patriots get Trevor Lawrence." So here's a weird situation. Just sort of talking about the draft and what could happen if, say, we lost half the season. What could they do? Do they wind up going to a lottery type system where, say the best team in the league gets 1 ping pong ball. The worst team in the league gets 32 ping pong balls, or whatever the number is. And then somehow you get some weird roundabout system. With the NFL, what I think you'd have to do is a weighted average. Maybe take the last 3 years and then say, okay, last year's worth 60%, 2 years ago's 20%, or 30% or whatever it is, and then like 3 years ago is 10%, and then you just sort of weigh it that way, which would be perfect because the Jets would wind up in like the top 10. I think the Giants would be a top 2 pick or something like that.
We'd probably be first. We've picked second, fourth, and sixth the last 3 years, so we'd be up there.
Oh yeah.
Welcome, buddy.
Yeah, any situation where the Patriots wind up with Trevor Lawrence is going to result in me punching an infant. And it's not going to be okay.
I don't see it. Lawrence, I think the team that I think probably will end up with Lawrence is the Jaguars. I think the Jaguars are horrendous. They lost their entire defense. I think Jacksonville's going to get the first pick. If I had to guess, I think he'll probably be a Jacksonville Jaguar.
Yeah, you could talk me into that. I think Jacksonville's a popular landing spot.
I don't like
Carolina's the other one. I like Bridgewater, but I think it's a team that I could see moving up to get Lawrence if Matt Rule is riding high on him. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I just don't want to see Trevor Lawrence in the AFC East at all. If we could avoid that, I would be very grateful. Benjamin says, Ryan, can you do me a favor and Venmo this to Chris, $20 super chat, so he can throw away that trash bag garbage of a franchise on his head. Purple and gold is the real team to root for.
You don't got to do that, but no, the Knicks are a trash bag organization. I'll be the first to say it. I still love them, just like I love my Mets and my Giants over the last 7 or 8 years. But yeah, the Knicks are an embarrassment. Good luck to your Lakers tonight, Benjamin.
Man, okay. I'm trying to think what else we could possibly get to. I've been like rattling off different things. I know we got Joe for about 5 more minutes. Joe, of the players that we have brought in, what would you say? What player are you most excited to see from a film perspective?
Oh God, a lot of them. I'm doing film right now on Quincy Wilson, so I'm excited to. I'm excited to see really Quentin Williams take steps in the right direction. See him lessen that picker penetrator role that he had last year, and actually be used as a one-on-one type guy like he was in Alabama to shoot gaps. Instead of standing guys up for other guys, as in terms of stunting and being the loopers versus the pickers. So I want to see more of that. Becton, really interested to see how he transitions into the NFL. Darnold, like I said, with Darnold, it's all about the offensive line. When he's had time, we've seen what he could do. The Texans game, the Packers game, the Cowboys game, the Giants game last year. Those games he plays well when he has some time. So I'm excited to see him. Everybody, I like watching film. That's what I do. So it really, those guys come to the top of my mind, but there's plenty of guys. Usually the young guys, the guys who I want to perform well are the young guys, because the Jets are nowhere near the playoffs right now, or at least making a run. So any of the young guys I want to take steps in the right direction are the guys I'll be watching a lot of.
I almost wish we had preseason. I mean, I definitely wish we had preseason now that we're kind of going through this whole sort of just no sport. I don't want to say no sports, but no football during the entire month of August is more frustrating than I would have ever thought. And I was someone that was very much in favor of shortening the preseason, sort of not necessarily getting rid of the entire thing, but probably going down to 2 games. I want to see Becton. Becton's the guy. I just want to see I want to know he's going to ragdoll players all over the field. I want to know he's going to be the guy for the next decade on that left side. I think he's going to be, just from a pure leverage perspective, the guy is enormous, and I think he's going to be hard to move for virtually anyone as long as he can get his wingspan on someone.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Becton. I loved when you guys picked him where you did. I didn't want to take. I wanted to tackle. I was glad we took who we took, but where the Jets were picking, I said during the draft, I said there's no way you could take a wide receiver here. You have to take. I think you had both Wirfs and Becton available when you guys were picking, and I think Becton was the right pick for you guys. You guys needed a left tackle, and to me, he's the most exciting offensive tackle in the draft class. I think Thomas is the safest. I think he's probably going to be the best. But Becton, to me, is an imposing force. The guy is huge. I remember seeing him in highlights and pushing cars. I'd be excited if I was a Jet fan. I think you're going to see a lot of pancake blocks. And I'm excited to see him play for you guys. I like Becton. Yeah,
I think Becton was the riskiest of the guys, mostly due to his pass sets. But once I got more hands on some all-22 of college, the pass sets became less of a concern. And honestly, if Joe Douglas picked a receiver there, I would have lost a lot of faith in him really, really quickly, just in terms of team building. That would have been really, really bad in my mind. So I like Becton a lot. I agree that Thomas is the safest. Him and Wills are really safe. I liked Wills a lot, like a lot. Thomas is safe. I just don't think Thomas's ceiling is as high as the other guys, just because of some of the limitations in terms of his athletic ability. There are sometimes he's laboring to get back against guys who were 250 pounds in college. So I'm worried about him against some speed rushers and things like that. Even though I do like him, I just don't think he's ever going to be an elite guy, where I feel like Becton could be an elite guy. But at the same time, if you told me Becton was a below average guy, I would believe that, where I don't think Thomas has the capability to be below average. I think his technique is too good for him to ever be a bad player. So when I look at Thomas, I thought he was a very, very safe player. I just didn't think his ceiling was as high as a guy like Wills, Wirfs, and Becton. So I liked both teams' pick. I get where the Giants picked their guy, and especially with Thomas for the Jets. And there's a reason that I didn't like Thomas for the Jets, and it was because of his athletic ability. I don't know if the Giants are more gap, counter power type team. If you're that type of team, good fit. If you're outside zone team, not the best fit, because you can't move as well as the other guys could. But I agree with you. Offensive line, how you build your team, especially when you have a young quarterback you're trying to protect. You can't do it any other way. There's just no way. A receiver, you can't throw to a receiver if you're on your ass, So yep. I liked both picks. Offensive line's the way to go. The Jets need to continue to build that line and continue. It never ends building the trenches. So,
all right. So real quick before we lose Joe, keeping an eye towards free agency, who are you eyeing in terms of players that the Jets could potentially target
right now?
No. After the season, let's talk about 2021.
Oh God, I don't know. It's like the thing. It's a very I don't know who's going to be a free agent, who's going to get signed, who's not going to get signed. I think the Jets, what you need to do in free agency is it's kind of like a educated guess with supplementing the draft. So if there's a ton of corners in the draft that you like, who you feel like would be around, then target more wide receivers. I know there's going to be deep in wide receiver again this year, so maybe you don't target as many wide receivers in free agency. You do it in the draft. It all depends on what's available in free agency versus what's available in the draft. So that's how I feel about it. So completely cop out. I don't know. It depends, but premium positions will be an emphasis for sure, and some depth. Middle linebacker, they need some depth, some things like that. So whoever's not available in the draft, I think should be.
I'm big on. I want Thuney from the Patriots as our guard. I would like, if we're gonna spend money, either on him or Juju would be the two guys. We got Mims. I feel like you could spend a little bit of money on a receiver. We're going to have about $80 million in cap space going into next year. There's also going to be a ton of players that are going to have to get cut if the cap drops to 175 too. So we don't even know who a lot of the players are that are going to be on free agency.
He's an elite guard. He's really, really good.
I obviously don't know the Jets roster as well as you guys, but I think both of us lack in the edge rusher department. And if you look at the draft class. If you look at the draft class next year,
you're going to say that in 2060 with the Jets, it seems like at this point.
But there's really no elite edge rushers in this year's draft class outside of Rousseau, from everything that I've heard. So as a Giants fan, I'm looking at next year's free agency class. That's where I'm looking. I'm looking for – there's a number of guys. Shaq Barrett's potentially a free agent. Obviously, we don't know. We don't know if they're going to get franchise tag. We don't know if they're going to get signed. Matt Judon's potentially a free agent. Yannick Ngakoue's potentially a free agent. There's like three or four other – yeah, there's like two or three other pretty big guys. I would think both the Jets and Giants might be looking in that direction in free agency due to the, like you were saying, the thin draft class at that position. I could see both of them spending there.
All right, Joe, any last words for us before you have to go?
No. I appreciate you guys having me on. Like I said, the YouTube channel, Blew It Splits, it's all film stuff. So like I was talking about, I can't really, express it here, but if you want to watch offensive linemen and you want to know the difference, and you want to see things like, how many people know the difference between a near step, on step, bucket step, square pull, skip pull, a ricochet block, a double deuce protection versus a molly protection versus different concepts, leverages, footwork, insteps, hallways, all this stuff. You want to see that stuff and actually learn about the players who you're watching and judge. That's where I am. By the way, for you, Chris, too, if you want to see, I have the Andrew Thomas review where I broke down his film, like nitty gritty of his film as well. So that's on the channel.
Yeah.
So like I said, if you want to know about the players, like I said, any player on the Jets roster or most of the players on the Jets roster, I'm doing Quincy Wilson right now, which is like, I'm getting to the dog days right now of film. But like I said, appreciate you guys having me on, and hopefully I'll see you guys again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Joe, thank you so much for coming on.
Hey,
I'm going to switch over to the 3-panel thing. Now, hopefully I'm going to have to probably readjust some stuff here. Let's see how this works, if I can actually make it not suck. Boom. No, that didn't work. All right, give me a second here. I'll figure this out. Three-way panel, four-way panel. What the hell did I do? I changed something here, and I got way too tricky with this. Give me 1 second. Oh, I know what I did. I'm a big old dummy.
Oh,
that's
no.
all right. This'll work. This'll work. I got the wrong names now. I got to switch the names around a little bit, but all right. Entertainer, you're over here. Green Bean, you're over here. No, damn it. Hold on.
Do, buddy.
I got it. I'm just clicking on the wrong friggin' names. I grabbed Green Bean's name.
Oh,
there we go.
I see you.
Okay, boom. All right, we're back. Oh, God, I have the phone number on the screen. I'm not even trying to do the phone number right now. All right, how do I get rid of this? Jesus Christmas.
We taking calls?
All right. We could do some calls if you want. I think we got there was one more super chat I wanted to get to, and then we could try taking some calls. Guys, if you haven't followed Chris the Entertainer, Green Bean, or Joe, the links are in the description down below. Make sure you follow those guys. They all do some phenomenal review on all their respective teams. 2613 Mike says, has anyone heard anything on Huff, Bryce Huff, the edge rusher from Memphis? I have not heard anything. I've been pretty out of the loop. Green Bean, have you heard anything on Bryce Huff at all?
No, I haven't seen anything come out of the camp yet.
All right, I'm going to go out on a limb and say Chris probably has not heard anything either. He's undrafted free agent.
You got me there. I got nothing on Huff.
You don't know.
All right, so you know what I'll do? Let's throw the phone number on the screen. But remember, keep your questions short because Chris and Green Bean are not going to be able to hear your questions. All right, we got our first caller.
Call from Chris from Florida. To accept.
Chris from Florida, what's up, dude? How you doing tonight?
What's going on, my Jet fans? What's here for another training camp day? Woo!
Woo! What's on your mind, brother?
All right, so I know it's going to be a big chat today. Real quick question for the Jets and for Chris the Entertainer, depending on how you want to look at it. If you were to give Sam Darnold or Daniel Jones two key what's the word I'm looking for? Talents that you would pick out of all the other quarterbacks this year, what two key talents would you give Sam Darnold or Daniel Jones? And then you would also have to give them one negative defect. And how would you pretty much that. Two positive things, one negative thing added to your quarterback.
So are you saying a trait, or like when you say talent, or you mean talent as in a player?
Exactly, from another player, like Rodgers' accuracy and Josh Allen's far depth, but you would give it injury prone of another player. You know what I mean?
Okay, I like that question. That's an interesting question. I'm gonna change it up a little bit on you. Basically, what Chris was asking is if we had to take our respective quarterbacks and give them a trait, a good trait and a bad trait. You had to take what he said, two good traits. I'm going to narrow it down to one. For Sam Darnold, I would say maybe I'll say decision making. It's not necessarily a big concern. I think he's always going to be a guy that's going to have a lot of interceptions. Like even if he throws for 30 touchdowns this year and 4,000 yards, I think he's probably going to have 15 interceptions. I think that's just sort of his roundabout number. I don't think you'll ever see him with single-digit interceptions in this league, just because of the way he plays the position. So maybe I would say decision-making as a better trait, and then, or I don't know, maybe health, I guess. I don't know. If I had to pick a debilitating trait for him, that like if he had to have a bad thing, maybe I'd say deep accuracy. I think the accuracy near the line of scrimmage is probably more important than the deep stuff. If you can bomb the ball down the field, hopefully a player can just kind of run under it as opposed to I don't know. That's a tough question to kind of kind of go with. Green Bean, in terms of Sam Darnold, what trait do you wish he had, and which trait do you, if you had to give him a bad trait, what would it be? I think, did I mute you? Hold on.
Me. I'm sorry, that was
There
me.
you go.
You're good.
Sorry, I was
no,
like, wait a
my
second.
bad. No, don't forget, man. I'm in a part. I have people, I have kids everywhere, so I keep muting myself not to disturb the show. I apologize. I forgot. The trait that I wish Sam Darnold had was protection in front of him. The protection trait. I wish he wasn't running for his friggin' life. That said, I really would like to see him stop throwing off the back foot. That's a thing where it's really great when somebody's under pressure and they can make something happen out of that. But I see him depend on that a little more often, like times where he didn't have to, and that's probably because he's feeling pressure from the PTSD that he's suffering from being chased around all the time and getting hit so quickly. So he's just throwing off the back foot, panicking. I'd like to see that go away. I'd like to see him settle and trust his O-line and his protection so he can actually surgically take care of the defense. I hope that answers the question.
I like that answer. That's a good answer. As far as Daniel Jones goes, the one thing I think is clearly obvious what he needs to work on more than anything is his pocket awareness and his pre-snap reads with zone coverage. He struggled against zone coverage mightily last year, and he fumbled the ball 18 times in only 12 starts, which is the 5th most ever in a single season. So his pocket awareness needs to get much better. In terms of the thing that I really like, and I was actually surprised with Daniel Jones, because when he was coming to the league, the book on him was pretty much he's going to be a game manager, Alex Smith, he's a guy that takes shots down the field. He's got a lot of confidence, and sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. But for a rookie quarterback to have the stones that he had, I was pretty impressed with that. To make some of the throws that he was able to make, he's able to fit the ball into tight windows. I think he's got underrated athleticism. He's a pretty mobile quarterback. He's got all the tools that I want in a quarterback outside of the pocket awareness, which is a huge thing. And he's got to learn to read defenses better. But hopefully he can improve on that. I've talked about a number of quarterbacks in the past. Tom Brady's one of them. He fumbled 12 times his first year. Lamar Jackson fumbled 13, 14 times his first year. Tony Romo had a fumbling problem. So there's a lot of quarterbacks who've had fumbling problems early on. I think it's something he could correct. I'd also, I guess, wish he had a little bit stronger of an arm. He has a better arm than I think was advertised when we drafted him. But I would say it's about average in terms of arm strength. Maybe I wish he had a little bit stronger of an arm. But overall, I like Daniel Jones. I think he's a pretty good quarterback. But definitely the pocket awareness needs to improve.
All right, so I clicked over onto the Facebook. I have this simulcasting to Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube, and there was a comment over on the Facebook side. 2 questions. Do you think it's worth the Jets taking a look at Dez Bryant or Antonio Brown? Also, do you think we will get more playing time at backup running back position, or who do you think will get more playing time, Gore or P. Ryan? To answer your first question, no, I don't want to look at Dez or AB. I don't think either one of them is a good personality fit for the Jets. I also think AB is suspended for like 8 games, so I think you're just burning cap for a guy that is really not going to be impactful for us, I don't think. Dez, I really like. I would have been for that probably a year or 2 ago. At this point, I think you just roll with the players you got. In terms of the second question, who do I think will get more playing time? I hope it's P. Ryan, because you want to see what you got in him before you go into next year's draft. But I think Gore, knowing the playbook, having that relationship with Gase, and kind of the way that it seems like he wants to call plays, I think Gore is what Gase wished Bell was last year, at least the way he kind of ran him. Green Bean, I'll kick it to you first. Do you think the Jets should be taking a look at Dez or AB? And then who do you think should get more playing time, Gore or P. Ryan?
I don't think we should be looking at either one of those. If we were, I would choose Dez Bryant over AB any day of the week. And like you said, he's not coming in till week 9, even if you did sign him. So I think Antonio Brown, the shenanigans, let's call them, last year were ridiculous, from the frozen feet to just all the stuff that he was involved in, with the stuff with Mayock and everything. You just want to leave a guy like that. Just get out of here. Don't even look at him. I don't care how much talent. You just don't want to bring that garbage in the franchise. Dez Bryant's not quite as problematic. But again, he hasn't played in 2 years and all that. So just, I don't know. I think I would rather DT, Demaryius Thomas. or make a trade. Make one of these low-level trades for somebody just to get more bodies in here, or scour the undrafted free agents. Or hey, man, where's our guys Lawrence Cager and George Campbell? Let's give them more reps and see what's going on. And what was the second part of the question? I was ready.
Gore or P. Ryan? More backup reps.
I think Gore is going to have a very, very defined role in the offense. It's not going to be just, random. Like, he's going to be getting the short yardage and doing what Gore does. P. Ryan, they're going to be working in. I think Gore probably will get more carries than P. Ryan this year, but I think P. Ryan's going to be groomed to kind of take more of the predominant role next year. That's what I think. I think his touches will be impactful. He's got very good hands. He's a good runner. You guys know I was talking about P. Ryan before the draft. I was hoping that we'd find a way to get him. It was a little earlier than I thought he'd go, quite frankly. I was looking at him in the 5th or 6th even. But I like having him, and I think he'll be a good addition to the team. But I think Gore will get more. We didn't bring him in just to sit behind P. Ryan. You know what I mean? That's the way I see it.
Entertainer, what about you? Let's flip it. Let's flip it a little bit. Let's say, should the Giants bring in Dez or AB?
Neither team should bring in either one of them for the simple reason that neither team is a win-now team. Not to mention the Jets and the Giants both got rid of headaches. I mean, the Jets for it was Odell Beckham. The Giants rather it was Odell Beckham. The Jets, you just got rid of your guy. So I mean, you just got rid of a guy that was causing controversy. I don't think you want to bring in a guy who I think belongs in a straitjacket. I say it all the time with Antonio Brown. It just doesn't make sense. I'm not the only teams that make sense to bring in a guy like Antonio Brown is a team that could potentially win a championship this year. That's neither one of these teams. Not to mention you're trying to develop young talent at the wide receiver position for both the Jets and the Giants. You bring in a guy like Dez Bryant or Antonio Brown, that's going to take away reps from Darius Slayton for the Giants. That's going to take away reps from Denzel Mims for the Jets. You guys aren't – those guys are a one-year fix. Even if you thought Dez Bryant could be a decent receiver, he's a one-year guy. The guy's coming off a major injury. He hasn't played in 2 years. He's up there in age. Doesn't make sense for either team, in my opinion. Neither – like I said, if we were teams that were – thought to be going into the year as Super Bowl potential contenders or at least playoff favorites, I'd say maybe you give it a roll of the dice, but it doesn't make any sense to me. As far as P. Ryan goes, I remember evaluating him during the draft. I think he was a great pick for you guys. I think you got him in the 4th round. I like him a lot. I think it was a good pick by the New York Jets. But like Green Bean said, I think Gore's going to be your primary backup running back. He's just a guy that he doesn't die. I mean, I feel like this guy's like 80 years old and he's still a pretty productive running back. Like, especially at that position, generally guys break down by the age of 28, 29 years old. Gore's still going. He is the epitome of a compiler. That's a term you bring up a lot in baseball. He's a compiler. I mean, I think he's got the 3rd most rushing yards ever. And it's because the guy's been playing at a pretty good level, even up to this age. I think he's like 35 years old, 34 years old. So, yeah, I think Gore will be your backup running back this year, but I think P. Ryan could be a nice piece for you guys in the future. I did like him.
Guys, we have 164 people in this chat right now. We got 69 likes. As much as I love the number, you guys need to hit the like button more. Come on, get us up over 100. Guys that watch this stream later on are going to see just how many likes are on here, and that is going to encourage people to come back and watch. You guys are helping the channel. Guys, if you have not subbed up, Joe Blewett, Green Bean, Chris the Entertainer, all their links are in the description down below. We'll jump back to the phone calls. Guys, remember, keep your questions short because I have to reiterate it to these guys. They are not going to be able to hear your question. So phone lines are open right now. Guys, what would you say you're most looking forward to? What game on your schedule? I guess I should say Chris. What's on the Giants schedule? What are you most looking forward to?
Outside of the divisional games, which I shouldn't be looking forward to because we haven't been able to beat the Eagles and Cowboys in like a decade, but outside of the divisional games, because I'm always looking forward to the Eagles, the football team. That's what I got to call them now, and the Cowboys. But outside of our division, it's got to be the Browns. The return of Odell Beckham.
Nicholas, hang tight for just a second.
Oh, sorry.
You would say the Browns?
The Browns, yeah. Odell Beckham returning to MetLife Stadium. I think that'll definitely be a much anticipated matchup. And then you got Brady with the Bucs on I think on Monday Night Football. So those would be mine too.
Green Bean, what about you? What would the game you're most looking forward to for the Jets this year?
Look, opening day. Obviously, I've about had it with no football. I miss preseason. I'm tired of all the people who've been lobbying for preseason to go away. This is what we're left with, and I hate it. So opening day, not only for opening day, because I think we're gonna beat the Bills opening day. So I'm looking forward to that. Interestingly, I'm also looking for I think it's week 2 against the Niners. I'm really looking forward to that. I think if we can beat the Bills and somehow beat the Niners, it's really going to shape our season. But I'm looking for Seattle. I would love to see some Chris Herndon burns on Jamal Adams, that kind of stuff. Or
Yeah, I would say
you know,
Seattle's
right.
the team for me. I think that's going to have the most juice to it. All right, Nicholas, I'll get to you right now. What's on your mind, brother?
All right, so how good do you think Josh Allen can be, and do you think he could win a Super Bowl with the Bills?
Ooh, okay. Interesting question. Interesting question. Not so much a Jets or a Giants question, but how good do we think Josh Allen can be, and do you think he could win a Super Bowl? I don't think the Jaguars are getting to the Super Bowl, but no, I'm kidding. Josh
I
Allen,
was gonna
quarterback,
say,
obviously.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah, no. Look, I think you saw Josh Allen, like all of Josh Allen in that wild card game. He could be incredible and awesome to watch, and then you get the oh no, what are you doing? And he laterals the ball and the ball gets fumbled, and then everything goes down the toilet. So I sure, is there a shot he could win a Super Bowl? I do think so. I look at him sort of similarly to like Cam Newton, where he's just a big bodied guy, can run, has a powerful arm, not necessarily the accuracy. And Cam was relatively close to winning a Super Bowl. He at least got there. So I would say he could win a Super Bowl. I don't think he will. I think he's going to be good. I don't think he's going to be the best of the quarterbacks from his draft class. I think Sam's still going to be the better quarterback. I think Lamar Jackson's clearly the better quarterback right now. You know, with Baker and Allen, probably somewhere between those two. I don't know. He's going to be a good quarterback. I just don't think he's going to be like a top 5 level quarterback that you might need to win a Super Bowl. Chris, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I like Josh Allen. I don't, like you said, I don't think he's ever going to be a top 5. I think the Cam Newton comparison's pretty good. I'm not going to put him on that level. When Newton was at his best, he won the MVP. But I think that's a pretty solid comparison. That's what I thought when I first saw him play. He's got a rocket for an arm, incredible athlete. I mean, he's definitely got sneaky athleticism when you watch him play. An exciting player. I worry about him holding up long term. Some of the hits that I see him take when he takes off and runs, he flips in the air, things like that. I completely understand why the Bills took him because of where the Bills play. You're talking about some of the worst conditions in the NFL. You need a guy with a cannon for an arm to get the job done. So I always thought it was a pretty good fit there. And kind of like Sam Darnold in his rookie year, Josh Allen had no support. He had no offensive line whatsoever. They had a mediocre receiving core at best. The following year, they went out there that they spent a boatload on the offensive line. They shored that up for him. This year, they go out and get Stephon Diggs. I think Josh Allen's going to have a good year this year. I know a lot of Jet fans might not like hearing that. He's one of the guys that I'm kind of riding with. Maybe he won't have the highest completion percentage. I think he's going to win games. And like I said earlier, he only threw 2 picks in his last 11 games last year. So, but like you said, you see highs and lows sometimes from within games. Like in that playoff game, he looked like a lost puppy. I mean, at portions in that game and other points, he looked great. So he's a young quarterback with some upside, and with Diggs, it should only help him. Not to mention he's got a really strong defense in Buffalo. Might be the best in football. Definitely one of the top 3 or 4. I think he's got the team to get it done, but I don't know if he's ready yet to take him there. So I'll say not this year, but I wouldn't rule it out in the future. I wouldn't rule it out if the Bills could keep this team intact.
Green Bean, what are you thinking about Josh Allen?
Yeah, interestingly enough, I also thought he was a good pick for Buffalo for the exact reasons that Chris just outlined. I think that I would have liked him over Josh Allen. I would not have liked him over Baker Mayfield or even Lamar Jackson.
Josh Rosen,
I had those. What I say, Josh Allen?
Yeah.
You know what I said? Yeah, okay. I know. I slowly remember. Like, yeah, that's what I said, isn't it? So yeah, good. I'm glad I'm with people who get it. So yeah. So here's the thing with him. Like was said about the potential injury, I don't find him to be that football intelligent. I think he makes stupid plays. I think he makes terrible decisions. And I don't see that changing. I like that he's working on it. Him and Sam spent all off season together. They're working on their skill. His arm is something that's unteachable, but also he has a lot of difficulty with game time intelligence, and I don't see that changing. I think that he's the kind of guy that 3, 4, 5 years in, they're going to be looking to make a move very similar to like Blake Bortles and those kinds of things. He's going to flash, and he already has, and he can be an exciting player. I just don't see him as having the goods to really elevate a team. And Stephon Diggs, who is a potential attitude problem, is if that relationship, if he can't hit him, there's going to be problems in there, and that's why Vikings were willing to get rid of him in the first place, in addition to money and all that. But I think I don't see it as rosy as everybody else. I see Josh Allen. They have a team around him, and if he can't make it happen, which he blew it in the playoffs, and I see him as doing more of that. And I just see him. He's not 3, 4, 5 years in. He's going to be gone. That's what I see for Josh Allen. Sorry, that's just what I see it. I don't hate the guy or nothing like that, but that's how I see it.
All right, I'll open up the phone lines, see if we can get another caller in here. We got about 20 minutes, so get your questions in. Remember, keep your questions short because I have to reiterate the questions to our panel here, and I don't have a good memory. So that's how that's going to be. Yeah, Josh Allen, I think, is, fun to watch. I like the relationship him and Sam have. I think it's one of the more fun things, especially since they're in the same division. I almost wish Josh Rosen kind of caught on in Miami just so we could have like those three in the conversation. But I do enjoy watching Josh Allen. I'm not a huge fan in terms of what I think his ceiling could be. But we got a caller on the line. Who we got? Kyle, what's up, brother? How you doing tonight?
All right, how you doing?
Nah, I'm hanging in there. What's on your mind?
Quick question. If the NFL season, if it gets canceled at some point during the season, what do you think the NFL is going to do to revise like a draft order?
Ooh, okay, good question. So what he is saying is basically we touched on it briefly before. If the NFL season were to get canceled, what does the NFL do in terms of kind of figuring out the draft order? Chris, what do you think the NFL would do or should do?
Yeah, I don't know what they would do. I think we talked about this the last time I was on too, and I think your idea is pretty smart. I mean, to go, to kind of average out over the last 3 years seems like it makes really good sense to me, because it's not really fair to base it off of just 1 year because teams change so much year in and year out in the NFL. You look at the Miami Dolphins, for example. The Miami Dolphins spent like $150 million in free agency. They have a completely new team. So maybe average out over 3 years. I don't know how it would be. I honestly don't think it's going to I don't think we're going to have that problem. I think the NFL is going to have some kind of season. It seems like that they're very organized with this, at least the Giants, from what I've seen. I'm assuming the NFL is the same from some of the behind the scenes footage that I've watched. I think we're going to have a season. I think they're going to go through their challenges for sure, much like baseball has. But I think we'll have a season. But yeah, I actually think your idea is a really good one. If the season was canceled, I don't think you could just base it off of 1 year because, especially in football, teams change so much every year. It's like more than half your team is new every year.
Yeah. So what I was saying before, for those of you that weren't tuned in before, if you take a 3-year average and you weigh it based on the most recent season. So last year, maybe you weigh it 60%. 2 years ago, maybe 30%, and then 3 years ago is like 10% because that's going to be the least impactful 3 years from now, or 3 years time. I think that's the way you do it. You'd probably have to have some sort of cap. Like you don't want to have the Patriots, who should be towards the end of that first round, wind up with like the first pick with Trevor Lawrence or something like that. Like you probably want to put a threshold on it. Those worst teams, maybe it's a 1 through 16 raffle, and then it's a 17 through 32 raffle or something like that. Greenbean, what about you? What do you think the NFL could do in the event there was no or some sort of shortened season? How would they determine the draft order?
I got to be real honest. I don't know. I think like let's say we have 6 games. That's the season. I mean, I think it's like nice and clean. It just is what it is, and run with it that way. It's unfortunate. I don't know. I mean, they could get creative with averages and stuff, but I think there would be people crying foul. no matter how you do it. If it's 6 games, 8 games, 10 games, it just is what it is, and you just go with that. If somebody's 0-6, they get the first pick. You know what I mean? That's how I would probably think it's easiest.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm done.
And there's enough tiebreakers too. I mean, there's what, like 15 different tiebreakers you could potentially have, and then at the very bottom it's coin flip. So you know, it's just it's fate at that point. I could see them doing that. Man, that would suck.
At that point, you're hoping your team goes 0-6. If we're
for sure.
Anyway, let's go 0-6. Let's get the first pick.
That's right.
Oh man, if they did that last year, it'd be fantastic. We were 1-7 last year, right? We could have had the first pick. It would have been fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh god. All right, good question. Good question.
Joe Douglas would have gotten a haul for that first pick, man.
Oh yeah, dude, that's when you just trade back and just get whatever you can for it.
If you
right,
guys
guys.
had the first pick, you don't think you would have taken Chase Young?
I would have. That would have been my pick for sure.
No.
I think, but although if you can get the quarterback, we had so many holes. It depends how much they were giving up,
Yeah.
and how far back you'd have to go. Like with Washington sitting at 2, knowing they're going to take Chase Young, maybe you just pull the trigger on Chase Young anyway. I don't know. It depends how far you'd have to fall back.
Joe Douglas would have traded back with the Miami Dolphins or somebody like that made it possible for them to leapfrog a couple picks, Detroit, whoever it was, and just move back to the 5-6 range, and we would have gotten Andrew Thomas, Becton, Wills. We would have still gotten one of the guys he wanted. He was taking O-line in this draft. I don't see it changing, no matter what. That would have been great, man. Like, look what the Dolphins did with the 3 number 1 picks. They took Austin Jackson at pick 18. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think the Dolphins totally flubbed it up. I don't think the Dolphins picks were good at all.
They blew it.
I'm going to tell you, Jet fans are probably going to like hearing this, my thought process on the Dolphins. I thought the Dolphins were really headed in a really good direction. I thought that Flores looks to be a pretty good coach. I mean, to get 5 wins out of that team last year. Now, he lost a lot of his staff. They all came to the Giants. And I was like, wow, the Dolphins really got something going here. They traded. They got all those picks. But then, like you said, taking Austin Jackson at 18, I thought that they messed up the picks. Tua, even though I'm rooting for the kid, I hope he's great. He's a big injury risk. We'll see how that all plays out. Right. But then on top of that, they spent all that money on free agency for a team. They're not ready to compete yet. So I think that kind of puts them where you don't want to be, which is in that 6-7 win range. You're not going to be getting early picks. I didn't like the offseason that Miami had. I thought they were set up really well, and I don't think they executed on it.
Right. I feel the same way, man. I think I was impressed. I have a really good friend of mine who's I have a couple good friends, but one like that I've just been really close to my whole life. He's a Dolphins fan. And I told him numerous times, I am really impressed by what your team is doing to set yourselves up. And then during the draft, I was literally laughing at him. And he was like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, that's what he was saying. Like, why are you taking – and then, after the big free agent cornerback, taking another cornerback with your other first-round pick, it just seemed like they could have really done some things. And I feel like they were disjointed in their approach. And Austin Jackson, I'm not very high on. So, yeah, I just thought that was a foolish pick at number 18. They could have got him way later if they wanted him, I think.
They were basically the Philadelphia Eagles of the AFC East. I think, Chris, what did you think of the Eagles draft?
Oh yeah, I was very happy with if they prefer Rager, they prefer Rager. That may turn out to be a great pick, but when they took Hurts in the 2nd round, I don't understand it. Now they may get creative, they may use Hurts in a certain way, and I recognize that Carson Wentz is an injury-prone quarterback, but this is a team that has negative $50 million in cap space next year. This is a win-now team. You just gave Carson Wentz a boatload of money. You could have used that pick I think they could have taken Mims still, right? You guys.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
They could have still taken Mims, gotten another wide receiver, which is what they complain about. They could have got somebody on defense. The pick, I was thrilled when they took Jalen Hurts. I didn't understand that pick at all. The Rager pick, whatever. Maybe he'll turn out to be a really good wide receiver. I personally thought they were going to take Mims there. But the Hurts pick, to me, I was just in complete disbelief on draft night. Made no sense.
That was almost like the Jordan Love pick by the Packers. It was like just sort of floored me. I was like, this makes no sense.
And then they took a running back that was supposed to go in the 1st round with A.J. Dillon.
Yeah, dude, they traded up to get him too. Yeah. Like that's the thing. So you know what I think happens with, like, last year was a weird year as far as like the draft not being in person, and it was all kinds of the medical staff couldn't see anybody. I think they just kind of evaluated what the players they thought were going to be near them. Like Mims was, for all intents and purposes, he was supposed to go like as the 4th to 6th wide receiver in the draft, and all these guys went before him, which is strange. I think they just did more research on certain guys, and they just felt better about the knowledge base they had, or something like that, because it's strange. I don't know why. I think Ayuk went before Mims. All these guys went before Mims, and it was strange, and I just don't see it. And I think the Eagles really, dude, they mismanaged their draft as well. Like, good for you, man. It's like you said, you felt good about it. I felt the same way with Miami. I'm like, what are they doing? Now,
Yeah.
I turn around and we could be completely wrong, but from the front end, it looks like they botched it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know why they didn't have a good draft. We all know it. Joe Douglas. It's his first draft without Joe Douglas. Now Joe Douglas is with us, and we're having the good draft. That's 110% the reason.
That's it,
I
right,
believe it.
man?
I'm taking
I
that to
would
the bank.
love to- That's it. I'm riding that wave with you, Ryan. Totally.
I got to give Douglas credit. Douglas is, I mean, it's been 1 year. You can't get too crazy, but Douglas has done a damn good job for the Jets so far. I'm not even going to talk about the trade you guys made with us. You guys did well there. And then I thought that you guys did really well in free agency, addressing the biggest areas of need. You didn't splurge on any big names, which I think was the smart approach. And you guys filled some holes in the draft where they needed to be filled. I think the Jets are in a really good place, just not for this year. I think this year you guys, whatever, you take it as a year where Darnold develops, you got an offensive line. The following year, I think the Jets could really start to turn the corner. I think both teams. I really do. I really think the Jets and the Giants. It's an interesting year this year for both teams because you're going to see the development of both quarterbacks. And I think both teams have a lot of young talent. The Giants, I was surprised actually. The Giants were ranked the second best team in the NFL under the age of 25. So they've drafted well the last 3 years. It's just that, it just hasn't all come together. We had a lot of injuries last year. Barkley went down. Ingram, of course, went down. Shepard went down. Our coaches didn't know what the hell they were doing. So I'm optimistic this year. I think they'll be better, but they still play ridiculous schedules. But I think both the Jets and Giants are heading in the right direction. I think New York football will be back in a year or two.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. It's way better when the Jets and Giants are both competitive because then there's like that heated rivalry when both teams are kind of like floundering at the bottom in the top 10. We've gone to the draft party the last few years, me and a few of my buddies, and it's just because he's a Giants fan, I'm a Jets fan, and we're all picking in the top 10. And it's like, oh man, it's nice because we don't have to stay like the whole time, but man, it'd be nice to pick around 15. 32 would be fantastic.
32.
I've never seen the 32. Green Bean. Did you ever see it? How old are you? I don't know how old you are. I'm sorry.
Take a shot at it. What do you think? What do I look like?
I'm going to say you are... Oh, God, you dropped an 80s kid. So I'm going to say you were born late 70s.
Early 70s, yeah. I'm 47.
So you never saw a Super Bowl either. All right.
No, man. 3 years late.
It's brutal. Just brutal.
Isn't it?
I don't know.
Look at his fucking face. I should have seen something. It's been around a long time.
You'll get it eventually.
I know, my poor son. I tried so hard. My wife is from Baltimore, and she's a Ravens fan. I literally tried to get my son to be a Ravens fan. We bought him Ravens clothes and everything. And he just wasn't having it because he kind of became conscious right at 2009, 2010 when everything was all exciting, and he kind of felt that. And he's in, man. He's totally in.
He's trapped.
He's trapped.
Kind of like I am with the Mets. I was trapped right around that age too. It's tough, man. But you got to be loyal.
Right. You can't get out. You can't get out because if you do, they're gonna win.
That's what I always say. Second I stop rooting for the Mets, become a Yankee fan, the Mets will win the World Series.
That's it, man. And then who are you? Who are you? Everybody knows. Everybody calls you. Yeah, you can't do that. You got to be pure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to stick with your team through thick and thin. I mean, how many times as a Jet fan have you seen the butt fumble or the fake spike or you just go through all these different things. You're just like, oh man, this is goddamn brutal. And it's just a consistent thing with what I feel like almost every team. The only reason I did not pick the Mets as my team, and my dad's a Met fan. I've been to more. I shouldn't say I've actually been to more Yankee games at this point. I say I like the Yankees because I've seen so much sadness with the Jets that I just have to pick a winner on another team. And I don't even really watch baseball that much, but like, it's just for me. I have to.
Yeah,
I'll never root
joy in
against
your
the
life.
Mets, really. Yeah, I'm not gonna root against the Mets. I have a soft spot for them, but man, I just gotta win something at some point. It's just the Jets are just too piss poor all the time. Benjamin, thank you again. He says, in case anyone doesn't know, Chris loves the hog mollies, especially Andrew Thomas. He refuses to admit it, but I feel like in his mindset, offensive tackle greater than ladies, which I disagree. Ladies above all else. Thank you, Benjamin, for that.
Benjamin, that's definitely not the case. But I often say I don't mix hogs and ladies. I love my hogs on the football field. I love my ladies off the football field, and I don't like ladies that look like hogs. But yeah, I'm a huge hogs guy. I definitely come from the school of thought, build the offensive line, build the trenches. It's why I was so excited when we initially brought in Dave Gettleman, because that's all he talks about. Like, he dreams about offensive linemen in his sleep. So that's definitely my mindset. I grew up watching those Cowboy teams as a kid, the mid-'90s, and that's what they were all about. You know, Aikman got all the glory, Emmett got all the glory, but they had the greatest offensive line I've ever seen. And
Absolutely.
To me, that's how you win football games at the end of the day. And that's why I'm pretty optimistic for both of our teams. I think we've started to address that. And I'm pretty confident that both Becton and Thomas are going to be nice pieces for both these teams going forward.
Yeah,
Hey,
the
what's
offensive
up with
line is just so
Benjamin's-
huge.
It's right, but what's up with Benjamin's picture? What is that? I keep thinking it's a lady. What's the
Well,
story?
he likes his ladies. It doesn't look like. I mean, could you imagine if it was a little hog, and that was like his? No, that's. I like to believe that's who Benjamin's dating right now. Or that's the lady he's with.
She's
I don't
not
know who
bad.
it
There
is.
you go. Makes
Yeah,
sense.
she's pretty
Okay.
sharp looking.
There you go.
Yeah,
All right, good for you, Benjamin. Good for you, buddy.
Look, I want to see this offensive line. I'm right there with you, Chris. I think the offensive line is just so huge. The Jets have been at their best when Curtis Martin's running the ball wild, or when Thomas Jones is running the ball wild in the late 2000s when we had LT and that stuff. I think offensive line is so key, and the Bills did exactly what the Jets should have done last year. The Bills brought in the weapons. They brought in the offensive line. McCagnon did not address that. He gets canned, and Joe Douglas immediately goes into it, and he says, look, we don't have a center. We know we need a center. I'm going to pull Ryan Khalil, a former All-Pro, out of retirement to bring him in. Now, that is the swing didn't work. It didn't connect, but I think it was a logical, sound swing, and I'm okay with that failing. Like, that, I think that made a lot of sense. Now, this year, I like McGovern. I think he's a top 10 center. I like the Becton pick. Sure, it's a little risky, low floor, but high ceiling. I think we have a lot of potential with this offensive line. Fant, another guy that, Joe talked about him before, he's got some phenomenal athletic ability, and I think it's going to be exciting to watch these teams grow. And I think watching Bell and Barkley both potentially be able to run through all these massive holes that these hogs can create is going to be a fun year for sure.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of McGovern. I actually wanted the Giants to look into him. We don't have a center. I thought that was a great pickup for you guys. You guys missed on a center the previous year. I think he went to the Bills, if I'm not mistaken, in free agency. Yeah, Morse. And so, yeah, I think you guys were a year behind. I think the Giants did what the Jets were supposed to do in Darnold's second year, in Jones' second year. They addressed the offensive line, but the Jets finally did it. And I think at the end of the day, that's where games are won. I think too many people – you look at all these quarterbacks that come into the league, okay? And people say, oh, this guy was a complete flop. But they don't look at the reason a lot of times why the guy was a flop. Reason the guy was a flop a lot of the times is because the guy didn't have pieces around him. He didn't have an offensive line. He didn't have guys to throw to. Alex Smith's a perfect example. I say it all the time. Alex Smith came into the league. He was awful. Well, Alex Smith was ready to be let go of. He was ready to be flipping pizzas. They bring in Harbaugh. They improve the team around him, and then he becomes a Pro Bowl quarterback. So I think a lot of the times people don't give enough credit to the offensive line. The offensive line at the end of the day is what makes teams go. I don't care how good your talent is at the skill positions. They're not going to be able to do their job if you can't block.
Yeah, man. I mean,
100%.
think about when we needed that center, the Bills go and grab Mitch Morse. Gary V, the biggest Jets fan in the world, was actually the agent for Paradis coming out of Denver, and
that was who I was actually thinking of. Matt Paradis. That's who I was thinking of.
It's like it was a foregone conclusion. We need a center. Gary V has a client that's one of the top centers in the league, and then Gary put out that text. It takes two or a tweet. It takes two to tango. The Jets never even showed interest Like, that's how off McCagnon really was from what we needed. And then he went down to Carolina. So, yeah, I mean, it's so refreshing to have a GM that understands that, look, man, you need offensive linemen. It doesn't matter how fast anybody is running around there. If the quarterback's getting killed, nothing happens.
Yep.
It's that simple.
Yep.
All right, guys, we're right at our 10 o'clock mark, so I'm going to do a little bit of a round robin here. You guys, any last words for the people that were hanging out with us tonight? Green Bean, I'll kick it to you first.
10 o'clock. Is that what time it is over there? Look, it's daytime. It's like I'm not.
I don't see any alpacas this week.
Wait, where are you? Where are you? Oh, you said you're on the West Coast right now.
Yeah, now I'm right at Crater Lake in Oregon, Crater Lake National Park. I'll be jumping in 45-degree water tomorrow. Swimming around in the lake. But yeah, man, I think this was great. I really enjoyed getting to know you, Chris. I enjoyed Joe Blewett's input as well. I really do enjoy his breakdowns and Sabo and the guys over at JetX. I think they're excellent. If you guys haven't checked it out, you'll learn a lot over there. And this was great, man. I'm really looking forward to the season. I wish we were getting good news out of camp and not all the damn injuries and hamstrings and fucking, Brian Poole with the dehydration for 3 days. Give him some water already. What the hell's going on? But it's nice to be talking football, and I had a really good time tonight. I love this panel.
Chris, any last words for the people out there?
I had an absolute blast. I don't mind coming on Jets channels, talking with you guys. I know some of the people in chat be like, "Oh, you gotta get the Giants jersey on, get them out of here." But no, I just like talking football in general, man. You're a great guy. You got a great channel. Green Bin, man, it was a pleasure getting to know you better, man. Yeah, I had a lot of fun, man. I always love talking football whenever I can. And yeah, thank you to any one of my supporters that came over here, watched the stream. Hopefully you subscribe. He does great things over here. He's definitely building up a really strong channel. And good luck to you guys this season. Hopefully we get to talk more New York football, in season. But yeah, man, I had an absolute blast. And hopefully both our teams get off to a nice start.
Guys, I had a lot of fun tonight. It was fun having Joe on, having fun with Chris and Green Bean. Guys, if you have not subbed up these great content creators, all their links are in the description down below. Sub them up. We're going to be doing some more collaborations throughout the season. It'll be worth your while for sure. Guys, it's been a lot of fun. This is Talkin' Jets. We'll be back here next week, 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock. JETS!